Hi everyone, it's Miss Stormy. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. I had a super busy day, but I'm here and I'm making some more videos for you. I know it's kind of later in the day, so you can always watch them tomorrow, or you can watch a couple of them tonight before you go to sleep and then finish off the rest in the morning. But anyway, in case you didn't know, it's National Sourdough Bread Day. Sourdough bread has a national day. And I thought it would be fun really quick for me to show you how you can make it. And I'll probably post a little video or a link to a cool recipe, because sourdough is an interesting little science experiment, and you can make it using two things, flour and water. And as long as you have like a jar and something to mix it with, it's super easy to do. So just a little background on sourdough. They think it's one of the, I'm using some notes because this is, very specific sciencey type stuff, but it's one of the world's oldest leavened bread. So that means it can rise. Normally you bake bread in the oven and it goes up as it heats up and it rises. And, or if you knead the dough beforehand, it will rise and kind of puff up. And that's called fermentation. Now, sourdough bread is really cool because you can make it with just things that are in the air naturally and in the flour naturally, safe air inside your home, of course. So it uses something called yeast to help ferment. So I wrote a little definition of fermentation. Today's word of the day is fermentation. So it's yeast, which are little teeny tiny little living things, and they create something called enzymes. Now I'm going to refer to my notes. An enzyme is a substance made by a cell, those tiny little things that help with digestion, and they also help with making new cells. So it creates enzymes. So when those little tiny things called yeast in the bread eat sugar, they release carbon dioxide. This is the abbreviation for carbon dioxide, and my students know what carbon dioxide is. You breathe in oxygen and you breathe out. That's carbon dioxide. You can't see it, but when you breathe out, that's carbon dioxide, right? And trees breathe in carbon dioxide, right? The trees breathe in what we breathe out. And I know I'm getting a little technical, but I just wanted to teach you some fun little facts before I show you how to make some sourdough bread, or at least the starter. So they release carbon dioxide, and so you have the yeast, you have some sugar. We can imagine it this way, right? You have a little teeny tiny thing called a yeast, which you can't really see. It's inside of the flour. And there's also natural sugars in the flour. So the yeast eats those sugars. And then they release gas, or carbon dioxide. So it makes little tiny bubbles in the flour with the water, and it makes it rise and go up. So that's just a little science background. I hope you understood it. It was confusing for me, but just figured I'd give you a little background information on that. So anyway, it's Sourdough Bread Day, and sourdough, they think, actually started or originated in ancient Egyptian times. Now, I live in the country of the United States of America, okay? Which is, let's find it on the map, on the globe. There it is, United States of America. And I live all the way down here in South Florida. Now, if I were to hop on my imaginary plane, which I'm not gonna do, that's why it's imaginary, I would fly across the Atlantic Ocean and I would land here. This is the country of Egypt. It's on the continent of Africa. And they think there, thousands of years ago, is when the first loaf of sourdough bread was made. So, it's been around a really, really long time, and it's delicious. It has a little bit of a sour taste to it. So, you know, this is something that maybe you can try to make at home with your family. If not, you can always buy it at the store one day, and it's, you know, it's really delicious. So I was gonna whip up a little batch first. So I have to make something called the starter, which will make that bread rise when I'm finally ready to make it, right? Remember we talked about the yeast eating the sugar, and it makes those bubbles, and the bubbles in the flour make the bread go up and rise. That way it's nice and fluffy and light and delicious. So I'm just gonna do a little live demonstration. So I have a jar, it's gotta be a glass jar. I've already measured some flour, okay? Not the flour that you smell. This is flour that's made from grains. So this is the type of flour. This type of flour, I measured it out already. And I also have some lukewarm water. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just right. And I'm going to add the water to the flour. And then I need to mix it. Mix, mix, mix. Right? And I want to make sure that I mix it all up. So this is something that would be fun to do, right? It's something easy for you to do with your family. And guess what? You have to watch it for a week. So it takes a long time, but it doesn't take a long time every day to do it. So I'm going to make sure I stir it up really, really good. You got to use those muscles. You got to stir, stir, stir. Make sure everything has been stirred up and coated, right? And then you just take a loose lid. Whoops! You just gently put it on. You want to make sure that you don't seal it very tight, because remember, there's little tiny yeast in there, and they're going to eat the sugars that are in there too, and they're going to release some gas. You know, like when you burp, you got to say, excuse me, that's a gas. So all those little yeast are pretty much burping away in here, releasing all the gas. So if you seal this lid all the way, it could, like, the top could come shooting off and like explode, and we don't want that to happen. So if it's nice and loose, you don't really make a hard seal, you know, it can just kind of go off to the side if the gas gets to be too much. So super fun. You got to make the sourdough starter first. And again, I'll post a little sourdough learning lesson for all of you that are interested. But sourdough is a fermented food. Foods that are made from yeast or other things like that that release gas. I'm drinking some kombucha today. This is fermented. Fermented foods are healthy for you. I bet you've tried to list at least one thing off of the list of fermented food. Have you ever had yogurt? That's a fermented food. Cheese, soy sauce, kombucha, which is what I was just drinking, and sauerkraut, and pickles, and kimchi, which is so delicious. I really like kimchi. So anyway, I digress, right? It's National Sourdough Day. Make some sourdough. That's how this all started, from sourdough. We learned about Egypt. We learned about different fermented foods and that they're healthy for you. We talked a little science. So it's super duper fun to incorporate science into food, because I love food. I don't know about you, but I really, really like food. And I have this really cool book. It's called Grow It, Cook It, Simple Gardening Projects and Delicious Recipes. And there's lots of recipes in here, which I am not going to read, but they have this fun bread making project. Look at that. They made sunflower pot loaves. Look at that. She made some bread, sunflower bread. She took some clean new clay pots and she baked the bread inside of it. So there's all different types of bread you can make too. Even though it's National Sourdough Bread Day, think about all the breads you can make. Maybe you want to make some banana bread. I posted that picture earlier of those bananas I have that are pretty much all brown. Those are the perfect type of bananas to make for some yummy banana bread. So I hope you'll try it. I will be posting follow-up videos because this one's getting to be a little bit too long. I got carried away, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you very soon. Bye.